We have an artist talk now with Olive Nieto, Frederika, Tsai, and Bettina Fung. I will read a little bit who they are, and then I will give the floor to them. We will first hear Bettina. Bettina Fung is a Hong Kong-born British-Chinese artist based in the UK. Bettina practices encompasses live art, 2D and site-specific works that have explored. Yes.
Sorry, just we need to address Irlanda as translator now.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Before everything start, please, so that I can translate.
Aha. Now we have a Irlanda. We have a now.
Can I ask into which language?
To Spanish, English to Spanish, Marianne. Thanks.
Janina, to continue.
Yes, para las que
it's there now.
Yeah, las que necesitan traducción en español, elige en el canal español, por favor. Gracias. Yeah, go ahead, Zoe, sorry.
Okay, so I will continue to present Bettina Fung. She explored and questioned subject of legacy, belonging, futility, productivity, and progress. She is driven by the expansive and immediate nature of drawing and often focus on its performative aspects in her work. Since the onset of the pandemic, with live performance on hold in the UK, Bettina started exploring ways of gathering and creating live art over the internet and experiment with Google Docs, treating it as a site for live performance. Bettina has exhibits in the UK and internationally, and was the recipient of awards such as it's wrote Artist Information Company New Collaboration Bursary in 2014 and Arts Council England grants for the Arts Award in 2018. With a keen interest in alternative education, Bettina was a part of Syllabus IV, an alternative pair-led artist development and learning program delivered by 6 UK arts institutions, and is an associate member of the Asia-Art-Activism Research Network. This is Bettina. I succeed to read. And then we will hear Olive Nieto. Is a performance maker and an assistant professor at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Olive and playwrights Layeta P. Bukoy, sorry if I something not say correct, collaborate to create the monovlog series that reflect the lives and preventable deaths of the Filipino people at the time of the viral video and the deadly virus. The tandem experiment the form with the Sining Banwa Community Theater in the Bicol region and the Tanghalang Filipino at the Cultural Center of the Philippines, and in Facebook live streaming service and Kumu, a Filipino app for live streamers. The monovlog is an online performance and a cross between the monologue and the vlog or video log. The monologue is an emergent for all online performances and emergency response during the Metro Manila lockdown, the longest in the world due to the COVID pandemic. And then we have a Frederika Tsai, born in Taipei, is an interdisciplinary theater maker, curator, and dramaturge based in Berlin, Germany. Frederika and her colleague Ming Pong founded a co-curator of Asia Performing Artists Lab. We'll talk about the Asia Performing Artists Lab, which offer Berlin-based artists with Asia background, a platform for creative exchange, collaboration, and experiments. Artists apply with the project to work on, which can be in the form of an idea, a draft of the work in progress. They work together intensively over a short period of time, and at the end of the present the results. The two first editions were in cooperation with Berliner Ringtheater. So I hope that you understand me everything, and I will leave the floor to this amazing, amazing artist. And first we give the floor to Bettina.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm gonna share my screen, do the Zoom thing. And I'm assuming, because I can't see you, that you can see my screen. Yeah, shout when you can't. But I'm gonna begin. Okay, hello.
I can see your screen.
Yay, awesome, thank you. Yes, hello, I am Bettina. And so yes, I'm based in the UK where I grew up. And for today's talk, I'm going to share how my practice went online over the course of this pandemic. So originally, my practice, sorry, excuse me. Originally, my practice predominantly focused on drawing, and I incorporate drawing into live art. So in other words, I like to make the work at the exhibition. I'm interested in sharing my process and allowing people to see the work unfold over time. And so I'm also interested in thinking of different ways a drawing can be, like what a drawing can be. So I seem to be quite attached to the idea how a line is created by a point moving from one place or another. So a body moving through space, it's like drawing in there. And I like to think a lot about drawing, movement and lines. I'm also interested in inviting people to interact with my work. So this example, I invited people to cut up a drawing that I've just made, and so they can make a collective collage. So inviting people to be part of the making process is something I quite like to do. So this example, I was doing a large-scale monotype where I roll a thin layer of ink on a flat surface and put paper over it. And so the actions performed on the paper would result in the print. So here I invited people to spend time with me on the paper with the ink underneath, to spend time together and do nothing for an hour. So the resulted print would become sort of the, would kind of show like the time we spent together doing nothing. So this work was about productivity. So far I've shown you examples of my work, and you can see that my practice is quite tactile. It involves touching and materials and people in close proximity, and so it's not very COVID safe. So in 2020, I was involved in a few projects that were meant to be a physical exhibition, but then luckily they all went digital, they weren't cancelled. And so they all went online. So at that point, I started thinking about what would my practice be like online. And one of this projects was with an arts organization called Decorating Dissidents. And the project was Take Dada Seriously. So originally I was invited to do a week-long residency in a gallery space where I could research and explore my connection with Dada. And I also proposed to do an art jam at the end of this residency. So an art jam where people come together and we will draw and make work and improvise. So it's like this sort of like a jam. And so when this project went online, the organizers sort of invited me well, they asked me whether I could do this art jam idea as an online workshop. So originally I planned to cover the floor of the gallery space with paper. So there would be this large, very, very large piece of paper where we will all go on and we'll draw and we write and we improvise and we make work, and it will result in this very large drawing. And not only that, but it will sort of document like the time we spent in this sort of art jam. And so thinking about doing this online, I have to think about how do we kind of work in the same, how do we gather, how do we work on the same thing whilst we're physically apart? So Google Docs came to mind. Google Docs is an online word processor that allows multiple users to be on the same document, to edit the same documents at the same time. And you can see in the image here that you can see the users, different users on the documents, you can see them move around. So essentially, it's like a very big piece of paper that we can all gather in and write and draw. And so I did an art jam and the workshop there on Google Docs, which brought quite interesting results. So having quite a lot of people on Google Docs editing and writing at the same time, I was quite surprised that there's this sense of connectedness I could feel with the users. I could kind of feel sort of the presence of each other in this Google Docs space. So for example, if there's a cursor above me on the same page that hits enter, it will automatically shift me downwards. So I can sense this sort of movement. So people's action affected where I was on the document. And I found that really interesting. And so I thought of the idea to do, why don't I make in live art on Google Docs? And so a part of this Take Dada Seriously project, they had a digital Dada salon where they also invited me to share work. So I proposed to do this live art on Google Docs there, and I kind of jokingly called it Everything Online is Dead. So I'm gonna play a very sped up video of that performance and talk over it. Okay. So everybody got given this Google Doc links to go to this site of performance. Everybody gathered there, and we weren't connected on Zoom or anything, so it was just on Google Docs. And at first they started to see me type and make marks, and then eventually everybody were invited to interact and to play in this Google Doc space. So it kind of evolved into, it became an art jam at the end. But it was really interesting to see how people negotiate space in this Google Docs, where some people are quite happy to edit and change fonts, like change text that were already there. But some people like to create their own space, or they will just go to the bottom of the document and they have their own page that they can comfortably type in. But then at this point, I was quite intrigued by using Google Docs as a site for live art or happenings or performance. And so my next opportunity to explore this further came in October 2020, and I was meant to share this performance drawing, Towards All or Nothing, in a physical exhibition, which again, because of lockdown, it went online. And so instead of showing a video documentation of this work, I decided I want to see whether I could do it in Google Docs. So I'll quickly go through what this performance drawing is about before I carry on. So Towards All or Nothing was a performance drawing that came out of a research on the life and work of the artist Tsai, and it's a tribute to him. And so the actions of the work is a way to remember him, and the work was also about legacy, disappearance, that significance of holding on and letting go, what remains and what is lost. And the actions involved me drawing a very large circle around me in one sweeping movement, and then erasing that, and then repeating this drawing and erasing 26 times, and then gathering these rubber shavings to form a point and placing it in the center of where the circle once was. And so the point and why 26 times, they're related to Lee's work and life, which don't have time to get into that for this talk, but feel free to ask me afterwards. So I decided to do this on Google Docs somehow, and it became this, towards all and nothing in reflection. And so not only it was like a reimagining of this performance drawing on Google Docs, it became a recollection of it as well. So again, like the first example, people were given the Google Docs link, which they all go to. So it becomes a place they go to, and they become these sort of cursors. And then I will start typing and telling them the story of this work, recollecting my research and the thinking behind this performance drawing, also recollecting the performance, sort of sharing the materials from my research and sort of documentation of the performance. So it became sort of this sort of it became this sort of storytelling kind of thing. And these sort of storytelling parts are sort of interspersed with moments of interaction. So audience / participants were invited to type, to write, to interact with the materials on the Google Docs. And also the drawing and then the erasing became sort of writing, deleting, writing and deleting. That kind of added this sort of rhythm throughout the performance. And like I said, the work was about legacy. And I thought legacy in a digital sense or online kind of had another sort of layer to it. In terms of like Google Docs automatically logged or saved the edits on the document. And so there is this sort of version history that you could go back to and find an older version and then restore that and then edit over that. And I thought that was quite interesting. And I incorporated that feature into this performance as well. So far, I've shared with you 2 examples that came out of the circumstance that the physical show became online. But my next and final example was work that I did this year that was purely created for the internet, for online. It's a commission by Aspects Gallery in Portsmouth, and it lives on Aspects website. And it is a text-based browser game that I made using an open source software called Twine. And this game also takes the player at the end to a Google Docs for further interaction, which I'll get into. And so I guess, yes, so this work places emphasis on imagination. So as a starting point, this work imagines Aspects websites as a building, so within which audience could navigate via this text-based game. And so therefore, like on the website, so the sections on the website will become sort of rooms and places in the building. And so the text from the game would allow the players to imagine this building that they are moving through. And within the game, there's also suggestions of possible futures and worlds, which also allow the players to imagine. And also, they're kind of like a prompt for them to think about what sort of a world they would like to be a part of as well. So that's the underlying theme. And then at the end of the game, it takes the player to the Google Docs, which then invites them to write worlds that they imagine themselves. So there's 2 parts to the work. So the first half is the text-based game, which allows the players to imagine the space from the text of the game. And then the second part is the Google Docs, which invites the audience or player to then write and share what they imagine. Hope that makes sense. And then, so let me show you a video of the work to have a better idea. So this is the website where in which the work lives. So you enter the game. So you're in this text-based game. So you have the text that describes the space, like where you're in, and there are different interactions, things you can click on, which rooms you want to go to, which floor you want to explore, and different spaces have different things to interact with. So this is the exhibition space where there's a deck of cards, and each card has a performance score as well that you can imagine. And then there's another part of the building in this game that asks the players questions, which they can answer. They could submit the answer. And one of the questions was, if you can rewrite the world, what would this new world be like? What would you delete? What would you set up? So it's this part that you can type your answers. And so sort of near the end of the game, which is you might explore the rooms, or when you decided to leave the building, it takes you to the gathering space, which is the Google Docs, which then invites the player to create and write worlds into existence. So it's like a collective writing space. And so this work was launched on the 20th of May. So on the first day of its launch, we had an opening event, and the gathering space was a blank page on the first day. And so at the opening event, we invite people to go through the game, and we all met here at the gathering space, and then we start to activate it and start typing and creating worlds and rooms in there. And so here, Google Docs not only became like a site for live art or happenings, it became also a place where I inhabited for a month. So I decided I became the caretaker of this gathering space. So when players arrive and I'll be there, I'll say hi to them, and I took it upon me to look after this place. And also remember the questions from the game. When players submitted an answer, it goes to a Google Sheet, which I then manually copy and paste into this document. So over the month, this document just grew with different answers and also different things people choose to write and create. And so this is like a slide of I created a study space which housed all the answers. So returning players could see all the other players' answers to the questions. And
Bettina,
it also became
Bettina, 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. Okay.
Yes.
Yay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm closing. I'm going to an end of this. But then it also became a place where people had fun. We made the beach. A lot of people started using emojis as well. These are some of the spaces people have created. And also throughout the month, we had events. So I organized a silent reading group where we read an essay about the practice of commoning, and we had a discussion. It's silent reading group because we're just typing at each other. I invited an art writer, Gabrielle de la Puente, who was one half of the White Pew, to have a conversation with me in the space. So there were things happening, people return, and the document just grew and grew and grew. And so last Sunday was the last day. The gathering space was open. So we had a closing event where we officially closed the space, change the setting to view only. And in this closing event, I invited people to take something from the gathering space that they like to bring back to the physical world, and to create a symbol that represents that. And then we all make these sort of paper houses, and then we drew the symbol on top of it. So these paper houses became kind of the link between the digital to the physical world, also like for us to remember this gathering space. So the work is still online. And you can still you can read the Google Docs, but we can't write on it anymore. But I guess, yeah, I can end my talk here now, but that's kind of, you can see from where my practice was before the pandemic to kind of, I guess I'm just sharing and thinking together like what I've been doing since then. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bettina, a lot. And we also collect some comments and questions in the chat. So if you have something, we will tell you. But really, thanks a lot.